February 20th, 1943, north of Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. The German tank commanders watching from the ridge couldn't explain what they were seeing. 5 American Sherman tanks, separated by broken terrain, hidden from each other by smoke and dust, were converging on their positions with impossible precision. No flags, no signal flares, no dispatch riders racing between vehicles. Yet these machines moved like a single organism, each one covering blind spots the others couldn't see, each crew knowing exactly where their comrades were and exactly where the enemy was. Wehrmacht doctrine said this was impossible without visual contact. They were wrong, and that mistake would cost them the war. The technological divide. Inside every German Panzer IV, commanders were fighting through a wall of static. Their FUG-5 radios, state-of-the-art by 1930s standards, were 10-watt amplitude modulation systems. Every spark plug that fired, every motor that turned, every track that moved generated electrical interference that AM couldn't filter. Effective range when moving, 500 meters. In many platoons, only 1 or 2 tanks could transmit at all. The rest could only listen. Inside every American Sherman, the situation was completely different. The SCR-508, developed by engineers at Galvin Manufacturing, the company that would become Motorola, was a frequency modulation radio. FM technology, licensed from inventor Edwin Armstrong, rejected electrical interference instead of picking it up. The result was voice communication so clear it cut through engine noise and artillery barrages alike. Each unit transmitted at 25 watts, 2.5 times the German system's power. Range when moving, 7 miles, and every single Sherman carried one. Not just command vehicles, not just platoon leaders, every tank. The engineers behind it. The SCR-508 didn't happen by accident. It was the product of deliberate, difficult engineering. Daniel E. Noble conceived how FM technology could be applied to military vehicles. His colleague Henryk Magnoski solved the brutal practical challenges. How do you install sensitive electronics in a machine designed to absorb artillery fire? How do you maintain frequency stability when a tank is vibrating, overheating, and taking hits? Their answer weighed 181 pounds and contained 2,748 individual components, 474 capacitors, 385 resistors, and crystal oscillators precise to within 0.01%, despite temperature extremes and combat vibration. The BC604 transmitter. The dual BC603 receivers, which let commanders monitor 2 frequencies simultaneously, their platoon net and their company command net at the same time. The BC606 intercom system that connected every crew member, with throat microphones and noise-cancelling headphones. Many German tanks had no intercom at all. Crews communicated by touch. North Africa, the first proof operation. Torch, November 1942. American armour landed in North Africa, and within months the technological gap began showing. At Kasserine Pass, tactically a German victory, Wehrmacht signals intelligence units intercepted American radio traffic and were disturbed by what they heard. Crystal clear voice coordination at ranges where German radios produced only static. The 10th Panzer Division's intelligence section filed a remarkable report. Every American tank appeared capable of full transmission. Not just command vehicles, all of them. What they didn't understand was the deeper implication. When a German command tank was destroyed, easily identified by its distinctive antenna array, the entire platoon lost coordination. The chain of command was physically embodied in a single vehicle. Destroy it, and the unit went deaf and mute. In an American formation, any tank could assume command functions. Destroy the platoon leader, and the next tank picked up seamlessly. The network had no single point of failure. Italy and Normandy, September 1943. American armour entered Italy, where mountainous terrain should have neutralised any radio advantage. Instead, FM technology proved even more valuable. The SCR-508 handled multipath interference, radio signals bouncing off valley walls, far better than AM systems. American tanks coordinated attacks across ridgelines in conditions where German radios failed completely. German doctrine required visual contact for the kind of manoeuvres American units were executing routinely. Then came Normandy, June 6, 1944. Sherman tanks rolled off landing craft maintaining contact with naval fire support ships, coordination that German technology couldn't have managed. But the Bocage fighting immediately revealed a gap. Tank radios operated on 20 to 27.9 MHz. Infantry radios operated on 40 to 48 MHz. The two couldn't talk to each other. German soldiers armed with Panzerfausts learned to approach American tanks through hedgerows, while American infantry, who could see them coming, had no way to warn the crews. The fix took weeks, not months. Tank crews welded ammunition boxes to their hulls and mounted EE-8 field telephones inside them, wired directly to the tank's internal communications. An infantryman could walk up, pick up the handset, and talk directly to the commander inside. By Operation Cobra in late July, every Sherman in the breakout had one. Cobra, the network in action. July 25th to 30th, 1944. Operation Cobra. Major General Edward H. Brooks coordinated over 200 Sherman tanks through radio networks that enabled a level of battlefield control that the Wehrmacht had never encountered and couldn't counter. The Panzer Division, once Germany's elite armoured demonstration force, faced an enemy that seemed to have supernatural awareness. American tanks responded instantly to threats reported by units miles away. Artillery strikes, called in through tank radios, arrived within minutes of target identification. The network functioned as a single mind spread across miles of French countryside. Panzer had been reduced to what German logistics had produced. Most tanks operating without radios, dependent on hand signals in terrain where visibility rarely exceeded 100 meters. The few functioning radios suffered interference and limited range that prevented effective coordination. The contrast in firefight timings tells the story precisely. Average time for an American fire mission, 3 to 5 minutes. Average time for a German fire mission, 15 to 30 minutes. A response 6 times slower in a war measured in minutes. The production miracle. The radios couldn't win the war if they couldn't be built at scale. Motorola's Chicago factory had made car radios before the war. It retooled completely, solving manufacturing challenges that had no precedent. By 1944, the factory was producing 24,000 SCR 508 family radios per year. Final wartime production, more than 50,000 tank radio sets. Sherman tanks produced 49,324. Radio deployment rate, 100%. Germany's numbers tell the opposite story. In 1943, German industry produced approximately 5,700 medium tanks, but fewer than 2,000 FUG-5 transceivers. Many of those went to command vehicles and assault guns. Regular tank units received what was left. Full transceiver deployment rate across German armour, approximately 20%. The Soviet Union's situation was even worse. The T-34, the most produced Allied tank in the war, typically entered combat with no radio at all. Soviet doctrine had to rely on pre-battle planning and flag signals. By war's end, after years of American Lend-Lease aid, only about 25% of Soviet tanks carried radios of any kind. The cruelest irony, here is the most remarkable thing about all of this. Germany invented radio-equipped tank warfare. Heinz Guderian, architect of Blitzkrieg, the man who built the Wehrmacht's armoured doctrine from nothing, had insisted on radios in tanks since the 1920s. His 1937 book Achtung Panzer treated communication as the foundation of armoured operations. Guderian understood something profound. Armour's power came not from individual tanks, but from coordinated ones. Speed and shock required reliable communication. By 1943, German industry couldn't produce the radios Guderian's own doctrine demanded. In a December 1944 memorandum, Guderian, now Inspector General of Armoured Troops, acknowledged that American coordination was neutralizing German advantages in tank quality. He had built the theory. He watched it be defeated by an enemy that had built the infrastructure. Harcourt, Quality defeated by network, September 1944. The Battle of Harcourt. The 4th Armoured Division, equipped with Shermans, faced multiple German panzer brigades equipped with Panthers. By any technical comparison, the Germans held every advantage. The Panther outgunned and out-armoured the Sherman. Over 3 weeks, the 4th Armoured destroyed 281 German armoured vehicles while losing 41 Shermans, a 7-to-1 kill ratio in favour of the technically inferior tank. Every Sherman in that battle could report enemy positions instantly to every other Sherman. Tank destroyers received targeting data from tanks they couldn't see. Artillery observers in command vehicles called devastating barrages within minutes of acquisition. The Panthers fought as isolated individuals. The Shermans fought as a network. The intelligence failure. Throughout the war, German intelligence never understood what it was facing. A captured September 1944 assessment concluded, American tank units demonstrate good radio discipline and coordination. This appears to result from extensive training and rigid communication procedures. Training. They attributed it to training. German tactics never adapted. They continued targeting command vehicles based on antenna configurations, not understanding that every Sherman could coordinate. They planned ambushes assuming American units would lose cohesion when separated, not understanding that radio contact maintained unit coherence regardless of visual contact. The End March, 1945. The Remagen Bridge. When the 9th Armoured Division discovered the Ludendorff Bridge intact, radio reports reached 1st Army headquarters within minutes. Within an hour, divisions across the entire front were redirecting toward the opportunity. The bridge was held. The Rhine was crossed. German forces, dependent on telephone landlines that American aircraft had systematically destroyed, couldn't respond at comparable speed. April 1945. The Ruhr Pocket. American armoured columns from 2 armies coordinated a double envelopment entirely through radio. Inside the pocket, 325,000 German troops found themselves trapped, partly because their communications had collapsed. American fighter bombers, guided by radio-equipped forward controllers, destroyed German communication nodes one by one. Wehrmacht units lost contact with adjacent formations, then with higher headquarters. Field Marshal Walter Model's final message before communications failed: no contact with adjacent units, no communication with higher headquarters. Fighting continues, but coordination impossible. Legacy. U.S. Army Technical Intelligence Report No. 176, filed after Germany's surrender, concluded that German tank communications were approximately 5 years behind American systems. Soviet evaluators, given access to captured German equipment, chose to copy American radio designs for their post-war development, not German ones. The West German Bundeswehr, rebuilt in the 1950s, made communications a doctrinal priority based explicitly on World War II lessons. A Bundeswehr training manual states directly, the defeat of superior German tanks by inferior American vehicles with superior radios teaches that information dominance outweighs platform superiority. The lesson echoed forward. In the 1991 Gulf War, coalition forces with superior communications destroyed Iraqi units equipped with individually capable, Soviet-designed tanks. In 2003, American forces demonstrated the same principle again. Network-centric warfare defeats platform-centric warfare, every time. Closing. The story of the Sherman's radio is the story of how America won the tank war, not by building the best tank, but by building the best network. Germany produced engineering marvels, Tigers and Panthers that outshot and outarmored everything they faced, and then watched those marvels be defeated systematically by machines that were connected to each other. The Sherman was an adequate tank made into a superior weapon by 181 pounds of radio equipment, not by armour, not by firepower, by the ability to know instantly what every other American crew knew, and to act on it together. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel, at Germany's surrender, reportedly said, "We knew how to build better tanks, but you knew how to make them work together." America didn't build 49,324 Sherman tanks. It built 49,324 nodes in the world's first armoured battlefield network. The side with better communication won. It always does.